Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Tech Girl podcast. I'm your host, Gertrude. Today's guest is proof that you can transition from coding into a leadership role without losing your technical identity. Meet Phoena Pang. She leads both product and business for gaming performance ads. With over 10 years experience navigating roles from engineer to sales to product and currently in a leadership position. She's done this all while staying technically sharp and passionate about closing the gender gap in tech. We're diving into what it really takes to move from an individual contributor into a leader, the skepticism, the letting go, the learning, and enabling others to execute. Phoena shares why she makes her team ask ChatGPT before asking her any question. This had me laughing. She also goes into why gaming needs more women creators, not just players, and her philosophy of why not. That's taking her across continents and guides her career paths. Plus, we're also talking about the 5-second rule. If you know, you know. Why and asking why tech isn't just for hardcore coders. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tech Girl podcast. Today, I'm joined by Phoena Pang, an engineering leader who has successfully navigated the transition from hands-on technical work into leadership without losing her technical credibility. She's product lead for gaming performance ads and is responsible for driving the growth of Google's gaming advertising business. She has over 10 years experience in the gaming and tech industry and has held various roles in product management, marketing, and sales. She's also deeply passionate about closing the gender gap in tech through early education and exposure. So we're going to talk about a lot of things in this episode, and I am so looking forward to it, privileged and honored to have you, Phoena. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Gertrude. Oh, and just like one small modification on my role.
Yeah.
So I'm not only like leading the product team, I'm also leading the business side. So actually I'm more like, right now, like I'm actually more working on like the business and also like basically expanding like our business like globally. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. Yeah. And I can't wait to hear how you got to that point because I'd like to get there. If you can recall, what drew you into engineering and technology?
Yeah. So I would say like since I was very little, I have always been, the kind of person who asks a million questions, and my parents are like, to a point that I was super annoyed. It's like, why this thing works this way or that way, and they're like, go find answer yourself. And I think, the engineering and technology kind of give me like a lead way and a logical way to understand the word. I explain why these things happen the way it is.
Yeah.
And also I have always enjoyed like solving problems and building things. So, when I was little, I was playing with Lego or, working through all the puzzles or, later on, like when I learned how to code and I love coding. So it just like to me, like programming or, as engineering stuff, it just feel like extension.
Yeah.
How to like solving problems. And I'm just like fascinated, like I can build like a website or an app that can solve problem in seconds. Yeah. And so I think that's all, like the reason, why I got into this, from the beginning.
And you mentioned a little bit on what you're doing now, but could you expand on what your day-to-day looks like in terms of your work?
Course. Yeah. So I think like right now I'm just like kind of combination of all different roles, because I'm in charge of all the Americas operations. So the operation including so the business team, account team, operation, like also like optimization, product, marketing, because we do have like a local like marketing team here in US, and so like I'm in charge of all the functions. But of course, I mean there are like products we need to build more tailored for like clients in the US or like the vertical clients, because they're very different from our headquarters, which is in APAC. So I'm also like leading like the the product development for that. And also in the meantime, I'm also in charge of all the global partnership. because our platform is more like a 2B platform. So for example, we work very closely with Google and also like other like big platforms. I'm also in charge of all the like partnership with like to work with those like big partners, like platform partners.
Yeah, wow. That sounds like a lot. Do you have a favorite part of the different verticals you work with?
Yeah, I think, for me, because I came from the tech background, so to me, to listen to the client's problem and translate into the product language, how we can solve this problem, from, the product perspective. I think that's something like I'm actually like very interested in. So that's what I have been working on. But since just right now, like in my current role, so I have like more control like on both sides. So that can, give me like a more like a smooth process, to
Hmm.
translate the client's requirements into like, the product features.
Yeah. Oh, great. And you did mention that you were also on the coding side, and now you're more on the
Yeah,
management side. How
yeah.
did you move from being an individual contributor to then becoming a leader that you are today?
Yeah. So actually my journey is more complicated than that because
Okay.
I
I'd
started in
like to hear all of
coding.
it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean like I'm always like a very like curious person and I want to explore
Hmm.
like different roles in in the like in different basically different roles in my industry. So I started
Yeah.
with coding and then I
Hmm.
moved into like sales, like more, like client facing.
Wow.
But it's technical sales. So I still
Yeah.
need to understand like the technology before you can go sell to people, go talk to
Hmm.
people. And then after that, I moved to product. So it's kind of like in between, like, the connection link. And now like, like moving to more like a leadership role. So I lead all the
Hmm.
team.
Hmm.
So basically like I lead all the functions, but also like personally I have done all the functions. So
Yeah.
for me, like, moving from like IC role to leadership role is quite natural.
Yeah.
Because first of all, I have done all of the like IC job in different roles. And
Hmm.
also when like in the past, especially when I was at Google, I was leading like a big project. So driving the project end to end, you also need to like align
Hmm.
cross-function teams, and also you need to influence them. Even though you're not their leader, you still need to influence them, which is
Exactly.
quite similar to what I do right now. Moving into the leadership job. So I feel like in this job, I also need to, yeah, of course, I need to operate in like a broader scale, but
Hmm.
oftentimes it's just you need to like just lead like a larger group and to accomplish like the like similar similar goal because we have the same goal altogether.
Yeah.
But also, like I think something different is, like while I'm in this role, like in the leadership role, I won't be able to manage all the detail. So it's more about like enable people, how I can create an environment, for other people to achieve their goal, how I can help them to unblock, any hurdles they have in the past to
Hmm.
succeed. So yeah, so I think that's also like something different from what I do when I was at IIC. But then, like leading a team or, leading a project to success, that's not something like new to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. And how did you know that this is the right time to move? Or what were the indications like, okay, now
Hmm.
maybe I can move from coding into sales into this other role? Yeah.
Yeah. As I said, like I'm always like a very curious person. So when I'm in
Hmm.
the role for say like 2 years, I was like, oh, I just got bored. It's like the same thing all over again. I'm just like
Yeah.
repeating myself. So I want to learn something new. I want to get some new like skill set. And that's, what actually moved me into different role. And then, while transitioning into the leadership role, I think it's the same, it's the same feeling that I feel I want more.
Hmm.
And I know how to operate things like very efficiently by myself, but now I want to,
Mm.
get more challenges. So I want to say
Yeah.
like, how can I operate a team more efficient? How can I, like transfer my knowledge and to my team, to achieve like a bigger stuff, to, achieve bigger things in like a more scalable way rather than, like a one person team. Yeah. So that's, when I feel like it's the right moment to, to go for the leadership rather than just being IC.
Yeah. Did you ever receive any criticism or skepticism for
Hmm.
making the different transitions?
Um, Yeah, I think for sure, on the way, it's kind of natural
Mm-hmm.
because whenever you
Yeah.
move, like, from the IC to leadership, especially, I move into leadership roles, so I kind of like lead the people who are senior. I mean, on the, age or experience in terms of working, uh, like either my peer, they're more experienced than me in different ways, and I'm leading them. So yeah, like the skepticism is always like existing, is that people will be wondering that are you capable, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think, like the best way to address that is to just like focus on delivering delivering like the results, or like making like decisions, show you care, and also show you like you're adding value to the team. I don't want to macromanage the team. If you are being, skeptical about me, it's okay. But whenever there's like a problem, I want to listen to your perspective, and I want to, like I want to enable you to make decision. But whenever you have difficulty, you come to me, and I can solve the problem for you. And then over time, and people will trust you more and more. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like a very good leadership way of looking at it when you're leading a team. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
I guess you will always disagree at some point, but it's how you deal with it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And also like different people have different personality, right? So it's some people they're like,
exactly.
oh, I need more management. Some people is like, oh yeah, I'm just do my thing. It's like, okay, just look at my final result. It's like fine. So it's like, yeah. So it's like really depends on like people in the team.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like when you moved from more technical, that's hands-on coding
Mm-hmm.
role into sales and marketing and
Mm,
where you are today, that you would lose your sort of technical identity?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an
Yeah.
interesting question because that's something that thought about very early on.
Mm-hmm.
When I
Yeah.
first, like moved into like the sales role, because I have been on the technical side for like very long time. Even my,
Mm-hmm.
like undergrad, grad schools, I always studied computer science. I always like code. So I do care a lot about my technical foundation.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, like moving to a different role or moving to leadership role, that like losing
Mm-hmm.
that part of my identity, because
Yeah.
deep down in myself I still think myself more like engineer rather than
Yeah.
anything else. But also I think over time I just realized that doing different role, or doing the leadership role, it doesn't mean that it will dilute your technical strengths, but it
Mm-hmm.
will just changes how you apply it. Because instead of writing code, or executing the actual like programming
Mm-hmm.
myself, so I
Mm-hmm.
can use my technical background to ask the right questions, understand, the trade-off of the system, and,
Mm-hmm.
help the team to make the better decision. So especially like now, like, I manage the product team. So, I can bridge the conversation between the different team, like engineer, product, business. So I can help them to translate like, the concept, the business concept into, like the
Mm-hmm.
product direction.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I feel, the skill that I have, that, I can apply, like my technical foundations, I'm not losing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So I still like very stay close and to my work. And also, at the same time, with the product team, I review everything they write. So I want to like, like be able to still like not losing, but also like more being like evolving. But not like as
Exactly.
a builder, but just, enable the team to build more. Yeah, so I'm not losing my
True.
identity like in this way. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good. And I guess with technology and working in tech, it's very fast
Mm-hmm.
paced and you're constantly learning. Is that something that you still actively do?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Okay.
And also I would say with, all this like AI tool, the ChatGPT, like learning has become like easier than ever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like now, like I don't worry about like, oh, I'm not coding. I can wipe code like a program like so easy. Or
Yeah.
if I want to understand like a new concept, I just go ask questions in the ChatGPT and just have a conversation. When I'm
Mm.
driving, I can still learn something new, by having a conversation with ChatGPT. So it's
Yeah.
fantastic, and I love the learning process in the new AI
Yeah.
word.
Yeah. I like that you say that because there's been lots of conversations in and around how people can still
Mm-hmm.
stay critical in the age of AI, but and some teams do not encourage the use of some AI tools, but it sounds like you use it. That means you also encourage your team to use it, I would
Oh
assume.
yeah. Yeah, I
Great.
make my team to use it like every day because every time when
Yeah.
they ask me a question, I'd ask them, have you asked ChatGPT first? So if you cannot get the right answer from ChatGPT or if you don't know whether the answer is correct or not, you can verify with me, but do not
Mhm.
ask the question directly to me. You should ask
Yeah.
ChatGPT first. That's what I always say to my team.
That's a good one. Yeah, we're moving away from just Google it to, just chat
Yeah.
GPT it.
Yeah, or Gemini. It's like I don't care what
True,
tool you
true.
use. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
ask both and to verify, to like,
Hmm.
cross-validate. You can let them debate.
True. It's very true. And since your transition and the different roles you've held, what has been like your biggest lesson or challenge?
Mm. So, yeah, I think like over time, I think we'll say the biggest challenge that I've been facing is about just I think just like doing thing myself because I think a lot of time that I feel like I need to be the one that who is executing or I think I do this better than other people, faster than other people. So I'll just do
Mm-hmm.
it. So rather than
Mm-hmm.
asking other people to do it, I'll just do it. But then
Yeah.
I think over time, while I'm transitioning the role, so I need to learn how to more like lead people, guide people, like giving
Mm-hmm.
more like time and patience to other people to do it, to enable other people rather than myself to do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's something like kind of hard for me because I'm, like coming from like engineer background, I'm like a very hands-on person.
Yeah.
So for me, not being that hands-on is yeah, it's hard for me in the beginning. So I now have to
Mm.
like get used to it. Like it's kind of like losing control, but actually not losing control. So you're actually getting
Yeah.
more control, but you just need to get used to the transition. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I can imagine that that could be challenging, and maybe some teammates will feel like, "Oh, this is micromanaging." Have
Yeah,
you
and I
ever
don't
got
want
that?
to. Yeah, I don't want to give
Yeah.
that feeling to my team. I was like, yeah, I want to review your work. Yeah, but it's not exactly what I want. But I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
sometimes also tell them the way. This is not, some like there may be like something more that I want from you, but how to also like,
Mm-hmm.
translate the, wording to them so they don't feel
Yeah.
offensive. So it's
Yeah.
also like a lesson for me as well.
It's a balance on both sides. It's
Definitely,
like,
definitely. Yeah, you need to allow them to like, make mistakes, right? So that's another thing. It's when
mhm.
you're like you're yourself, you're like taking ownership of your own mistake, but when your team is making mistake, what you're gonna do. So it's
Yeah.
it's a lot of like new learnings for me for sure.
Mm. Yeah. So I've been looking around some of your interests, and I've seen that you've talked about your passion for diversity and inclusion and talking about the
Mm-hmm.
gender gap in tech.
Mm-hmm.
How early do you think we need to
Mm,
start with intervening, and why?
yeah. Yeah, I think that we oftentimes that we face this question a lot, especially,
Mm-hmm.
like as a women in tech, in ad tech or in gaming. Like a lot of time I find myself the only woman in the room, so which is does not
Mm-hmm.
make myself feeling comfortable. It's like we should involve more women. But I think like diversity is not only like a slogan that we should
Mm-hmm.
definitely like intervene as early as possible.
Yeah.
So like, like ideally I would say like even, starting from like elementary school so
Mm-hmm.
we should like address that problem because the gender gap, I would say in tech begins like very early on the
Yeah.
exposure of the tech to girls and also the
Mm-hmm.
confidence give to the girls. So
Yeah.
if the girls don't see the technology, they don't see math or building things as something for them very early on.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
they are less, likely to pursue those pillars, like later on. So it's like when they're in the college, they are being told by their parents, you're not like capable or, told by other people, they're not capable for
Exactly.
doing this. Especially even
Mm-hmm.
for my parents, early on when I
Mm.
chose computer science, they were like, "Oh, I don't think you should choose computer science. You should learn something else more good for girls." And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "What do you mean by good for girls?" It's like we should give them confidence very early. So say,
Yeah.
girls can build, from
Mm-hmm.
like very early on in their early education, so they can imprint in them.
True, true. I really like that you talked about the gaming industry as well, because I
Mhm.
like to talk about like tech and diversity in tech and inclusion and things like that. But because tech is so vast, I tend
Yes.
to forget about the gaming industry. And theirs, well, I have heard it's worse than when you just take tech as a blanket statement. What is it like in the gaming world?
Mm. Yeah, I think in the gaming world, it's more, yeah, I think there's like two things. One
Mm-hmm.
is for the like in the gaming world, the gamers and people all think the gamers is that, oh, gamers are boys. The boys play games, but that's not
Mm-hmm.
true.
Mm-hmm.
I think girls also play games. So there's no
Yeah.
difference. Maybe they like different type of games, but you cannot just call boys are gamer, games are not. Like girls are not. So they can both be gamers. So
Mm-hmm.
when people design games, a lot
Yeah.
of times, so we when say like diversity is like when we design game, we need to design games for both, not only for boys, but also for girls. We need to cater for, like both gender.
Mm-hmm.
And then like talking about like the game makers,
Yeah.
there's like a more and more producers and which who are women.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have like a in the community also we support like women in games, so we want to empower more women in games because historically a lot of like producers, people who make games, they're all men, but also that's the reason why like all the games are all tailored for boys. So now like we want to
Exactly.
encourage more women to be the producer of the game so they can produce more games and for girls as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe if you can,
Hmm.
what are some of the roles or responsibilities that are found in taking on gaming as a career? Because I can see from the consumer side,
Mm,
I think the last time that I checked, uh, not sponsored, but Candy Crush was one of the
yes.
biggest games, and girls tend to play it more than guys.
Hmm.
But when it comes to actual producers of games, then the numbers are different. So how do you have the conversation, and what roles can people expect to be like, oh, okay, that could actually be interesting? Because if they're playing a lot, then maybe there's an interest, just not not a push to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are like a lot of different roles in gaming, right? So, all the way
Hmm.
start from, I would say like the producer. Producer is more like the project manager of the game. But then,
Hmm.
there's a lot of different, I would say, roles in the like in
Hmm.
the building the game process. So there could be
Yeah.
like artists. So, the game artist. So for example, like the Candy Crush artist, oh, I want to design the
Hmm.
cartoony, like the candy style. So the artist, so they will, do that. And also the level
Yeah.
designer, how you design the progression of the game and
Hmm.
also like narrator. So it's more like,
Yes.
people who like a storyteller.
Hmm.
It's less in the Candy Crush because Candy Crush is more, like kind of like simple, simple like a casual game. But for like more
Hmm.
complicated game, do you want to, you have like a game word, and you
Yeah.
want to like set up there's like different narrative in the game. So the narrator is also a very important role in the game, like in
Hmm.
the game design world. And also like for example like people who do audio and people who actually programming the game, so the most
Yeah.
important, the programmer, who actually implementing all the code. And
Yeah.
also like a QA, and that's for the production.
Yes.
And also for the game itself, while you're promoting the game, you also need like marketing people, like the UA
Hmm.
team is very important, especially in nowadays the world is more about like UAs. If you don't have like a good UA strategy, your game won't be found by other people.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there's and also another very important thing is if your game is a social game, community
Hmm.
building is very important. So
Okay.
there's also, for example, like big games, like Roblox, for example. So they have like a big
Hmm.
community team. So, the
Yeah.
community team, you can, like collaborate all the players. So for, any like events, like the in-game events or even like, from virtual events to like the events, in the real world. So there's like a lot of roles that people can take, it's really depending on the
Yeah.
is. Yeah, from technical to non-technical, like everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully more people get into it. It
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
sounds fun.
Yeah,
Sounds
it's
like
really
work that's fun.
fun. Yeah.
What's one leadership truth that people don't often talk about?
Um, so if I only can pick one thing,
Hmm.
I think the one of the truths is to
Hmm.
let go. So
Yeah.
the
Okay.
there's a lot of things you cannot control. So you just need to like focus on things you actually can do. Especially like, when, like the comparing, like when you're IC, so your value coming from like your own like solving problem, but when you move into the leadership, your impact will shift. So it's no longer about your output, it's your team output. So sometimes, like you cannot control like everything in your team. There are so many factors. Also that, just like, understand, like letting go. So that will, help you to, at least, also feel comfortable to be a leader. And also at the same time, just, like just creating, like, to help, to create like more trust in between your team, like in your team as well, to like your team to take more control rather than you like just driving the ship by yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. Letting go.
Yes.
What skills do you think would be the most important for the next 3 to 5 years?
So I think there are like a couple, but if I want to pick the most important ones, so I would say two, and it's kind of
Yeah.
relevant to what I talked before. So
Yeah.
the first thing is definitely, how to use AI effectively. So, quickly, because I think using AI is right now is like a productivity skill. So like
Yeah.
not only knowing about the tools, but understanding how to work with AI to think faster, analyze better, and then you can scale your impact, right? And also I would say because there are so many AI tools, so the second ability, so which is a strong judge, strong like I would say make this the strong decision power, because there are like so many things that you can get from the AI. How you can make decisions fast based on all of the analysis that coming from the AI.
Yeah.
Because there's like so many uncertainty. So that is also like very critical, because that's also
Yeah.
coming from you like thinking deeper. So you want to think deeper than the AI. So then you can make decision faster than the AI. Yeah. So I think like both skills
Exactly.
are very, very important. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any tips on how someone can practically implement that if they want to? Yeah.
Yeah. I think I would say like maybe like one thing for myself, how I can practice that, is to just ask why, to ask more context. So whenever that you see something already happen, so you want to ask yourself like, so this is a fact, but why this happened? There must be some context and why this
Yeah.
happened. So try to understand more about what's happening around you, and learn from your work. Is like, before you see, because a lot of things, like happen, or, even in the work, a lot of problems, it's not a new problem. It must have
Yeah.
happened before, like something similar. It might not be exactly the same, but the logic is the same. So you need to understand. So you need to like think more about your past and like what has happened in your life. And then use that like, knowledge and to apply to the current problem you're solving. And that will help you
Yeah.
to, yeah, like make decision faster.
True. True. Um, Actually thinking of what has happened and context, would you say there's anything about maybe your life that has brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, and it's a little bit hard question for me, because there's a lot of things that happened to my life that lead me like, just kind of lead the way that it is. So because
Yeah.
also like I think my life philosophy a lot of time is just letting go, because like my
Yeah.
journey of, I study in abroad in different places, and I work in the US in the beginning, and I went back to China for a few years, and I came
Yeah.
back to US. And a lot of time I just feel like I just make the decisions like, it's just based on like, okay, maybe, why not? Like just why not
Yeah.
just try it? And then it just like changed my career in a different way.
Yeah.
So but then I think it's going into like overall it's going into the right direction, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
But then I think a lot of time just, having like a very like open mindset and just embrace the changes is pretty good. Like a lot of time just like why not? Life is
Yeah.
short. Just try something new. And might be
Exactly.
like, exciting. If it's not like what you're expecting, you can always like pivot your way into
To
the direction
change.
you want.
True. Yeah, why not? Like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there one lesson that you're currently learning or unlearning?
Mm. I would say, like, even though, like one thing that I talked before, like
Mm-hmm.
letting go, I think that's
Yeah.
still the lesson that I'm
Mm-hmm.
learning. So
Yeah.
I have to say, like, it's just also like just because, for me, because I'm coming from an engineer background, so a lot of things that I'm thinking is more in the logical way, but
Mm-hmm.
not everyone is coming from the same background I'm coming from. And because they're
Yeah.
doing different roles. For example, like salespeople from like my team, maybe they are like a little bit more creative. So they have their own
Mm-hmm.
ways of doing things. So it's like sometimes I don't understand like why we cannot do things this way, like why you want to do it in your way. So like I just want to like, just like often time I need to remind myself is that not everybody's thinking of the way that you're thinking about. But at least,
Mm-hmm.
unless they are like absolutely wrong, that I will correct them. So then
Mm-hmm.
like I will try to give them more freedom to do the things they want to do, and then see the result. So from the
Yeah.
result, and then we can go review from there. But I don't want to make decisions too quick about what my team is doing. I mean, until I see
Yeah.
something like really wrong. So I think that's still like the lesson that I'm learning, because also you cannot do everything by yourself. So you have to learn
Exactly.
how to work with a bigger team. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Is there a book, podcast, or
Mhm.
person that inspires you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting you ask this question because I was just reading this book on the airplane. It's called 5 Second Rule.
Yeah.
And I really like it. Because
Mm-hmm.
the idea is actually very simple. So the 5 second rule is like when you feel hesitation or overthinking, you can just count
Mm-hmm.
down like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then take
Yeah.
action. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it actually helped me to, because I'm trying to apply the framework like to
Mm-hmm.
do like make like to do like things or make decisions like after I read it. I was like, oh, it's quite perfect. It's perfect for me, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I would like to judge on different things, and in the end I'm probably not doing it.
Yeah.
But we all acknowledge we're living in like a very like fast moving environment. So
Exactly.
the habit of acting quickly, it
Yeah.
can make like a huge difference. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like I would be, keep applying the rule, but yeah, I really like the book. So that's also like something, if you ask me this question, so, oh, that's the one book that I can think
Is
about,
it
which bring me
is
a
it
lot of,
Mel Robbins?
huh?
Is it the 5 Second Rule by Mel Robbins? I don't know if
Yes.
her book
Yeah.
was. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. It's
great.
from her. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And is there one habit that has changed your career?
Mm, so I would say like one habit that
Hmm.
I wouldn't say like changing my career, but has a lot of impact to my career. It's also just like always ask why.
Yeah.
Just like proactively, seeking context, like not just completing tasks. So even like when I was a junior, so
Hmm.
when my manager gave me one task, so I just always want to like, why we need to do this. So for example, like say like, oh, adding a button in this table. It's like, why we need to add this button? So there's like different ways that we can complete the task, but why we need to do that? So
Yeah.
always I ask for more context, ask for clarification that
Hmm.
can, like help you with your like your thinking along the way.
Yeah.
Also just, just to help yourself to understand like, like more information, because a lot of time, when people they're like, in a hurry, they probably won't explain to you. But when you ask
Hmm.
context, people will help you to understand, and that will also help you to grow faster in the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. Nice. Is there one thing you wish more women knew about tech and working in tech?
Yeah. So if there's one thing that we should, more women to know, is that the
Hmm.
tech is you don't need to be a hardcore engineer to belong in tech. Yeah, because tech isn't just about coding. So there are like, a lot of different skills. You can be product thinker, problem solver, you can be operator, you can be like, designer, or you can be even business leader in tech. As
Hmm.
long as you're curious and you're
Yeah.
analytical and you can
Mm.
solve problems. So there's a space
Hmm.
for you. So you do not need to
Yeah.
be like a hardcore coder. It's like some girl think I cannot code, I cannot work in tech. No, it's not like that. So I think
Hmm.
anyone can. Yeah. So as
Yeah.
long as you have that side.
Yeah. But also, currently, the job market is
Yeah.
pretty crazy in
Brutal.
tech. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you
I'm
have any
aware.
advice? Yeah. Do you have any advice for people that are just starting out in their careers or maybe are looking to get into tech or they've just lost their jobs and trying to navigate the space? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good question. So no, I think, like one thing I'll encourage people is to, like keep growing, like keep learning
Mm.
and don't limit
Yeah.
your scope.
Yeah.
Like some people say like, oh, I can only do account manager or I can only do like this or that role. It's not like that. It's all about like
Mm-hmm.
learning. I think everyone can do any role if they want to.
Yeah.
So and also because the world is like quickly evolving, so a lot of roles
Mm-hmm.
may not be existing like
Yeah.
tomorrow. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to be like always like growing. So for example, in our company, we laid off a lot of engineers like in the past
Mm-hmm.
year because
Mm-hmm.
like AI can replace a lot of that, like a lot of those type of jobs. But
Mm-hmm.
we are still hiring for, people who work on the machine learning, working on the product. So you need to be more like a high level thinker rather than
Mm-hmm.
just an implementer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, for, the people who are looking for job, who got laid off, you can think about like, what the job markets need and what you need to learn and grow into to get those
Mm-hmm.
jobs. So I think the job's still there, but they're just different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. Okay. So we've talked a lot about work.
Yeah.
What about outside work?
Uh-huh.
What do you
Um,
do?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm a dancer outside my work.
Awesome.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
wanted something like very different, especially in my job, I do mostly
Mm-hmm.
like mental, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
thinking, like strategizing. But then like outside work is I want to be more creative. So it's like I want to like,
Yeah.
like dance, I want to create things in different way. I want to
Mm-hmm.
use like my body more. So that is like a whole new world for me. Is that how I want to explore like creativity in different ways. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, any last words or advice that you have for people that
Hmm.
listen to the podcast? Yeah. It's mostly men, by the way, that listen to this podcast.
Oh, really? It's a tech girl
Yeah.
podcast, but most men listen to this podcast?
Yes. Yes. I was also surprised.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, okay. So if it's for men, so I would say, encourage the women around you to join the tech world. Like women can do a lot more a lot of times, I would say, but we definitely need men alive. But
Yeah.
also just I would say like to most women, I would say don't limit yourself. Don't
Hmm.
give yourself like a preset, like, like there's a lot of things you can do. But you
Yeah.
want to like think big. Imagine
Yeah.
like what you can do first before you can actually do it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So don't like underestimate. Don't sell yourself low. Anyway.
No, 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 no. Okay. Where
Yeah.
can people find you?
Mm-hmm. So people can find me on my LinkedIn. I'm always very like active on my LinkedIn. So if you just search my name like Phoena Pang, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. If you are like, new in tech, you want some career advice, I'm always like, happy to like connect and chat more about it.
Yeah. And what can people expect from you moving forward?
So I think like maybe like two levels, right? So one is
Mm-hmm.
on the personal level. So if you want some, like advice, like working in tech, you're like junior, you want to see, like so for example, like, for your capability, like what you should do, or you're like kind of confused about your career path, you can talk to me. And on the professional level, because I work in the ad tech company and we're doing 2B business, so we work with a lot of developers who have like a game or app they publish, so they want to use us as a growth engine or they want to use us to monetize, so they can
Mm-hmm.
also contact me. So like
Yeah.
different levels, you can all like come to me to talk more.
Oh, that's awesome. And all the details to connect will be in the show notes. Well, do you have
Awesome.
any final words before we close off?
I think we have chatted a lot. But I
Yeah.
would say any final word for the room. So think big, use AI.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can, I think, like, you can do everything. Just believe in yourself. Yeah. Give more, like, have more confidence, and you can do everything.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've really enjoyed talking to you, learning about your journey, and just getting to know you a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Gertrude. I'm really enjoy our conversation and my time here.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Phoena really dropped nuggets of wisdom, and I know I say that a lot. That's because every guest drops wisdom nuggets. Well, she has given us leadership truths to career pivots and why AI literacy is the new productivity skill. Here is what I am taking with me from this conversation. You don't need to be a hardcore engineer. By that, I mean super technical in terms of programming and coding to belong in tech. Because your impact as a leader comes from your team's output, not yours. Always ask why, seek context, and don't limit your scope. And of course, use AI effectively. It's not replacing you, it's changing how you work. Well, she also gave a little nice closing remarks to our male audience listeners. So keep on for that. Connect with Phoena on LinkedIn. Just search her name, whether you need career advice, want to talk about gaming ads, or you're navigating your own transition into leadership. I say it on her behalf. She's there to help you do that. Thank you for listening to the Tech Girl podcast. Subscribe if you're coming from YouTube. Download, listen if you're tuning in from Spotify. And remember to think big, use AI, and believe in yourself. You can do everything. I am Gertrude, and I remain the host of the Tech Girl podcast. Let's stay curious, let's stay technical, and let's keep asking why not. Goodbye.